Hello. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction. I speak the worst English of anybody on any panel, but Morgan will ask some questions in a minute. But I want to say something about our host country. Well done in the World Cup 2022. Well done. If I ever need an air conditioner, I know what country to call. The Emir has been a friend to me for decades. I met him through my good friend John McCain years ago. We have our differences, but I just want to thank his country, the people of Qatar, for helping us in Afghanistan. There are a lot of people that were able to get out because of what you did. I want to thank you for working to try to get the hostages released. There are a lot of people out of a terrible situation because of what you did. I want to thank you for hosting 10,000 American airmen who live better than any air base in the entire world. You're going to spend $8 billion, and I don't know on what, modernizing the air base. I can't wait to see it. So I want to thank you for what you've done for my country. You get some criticism, and Hamas is here, but I know why they're here. They're here so they can be talked to. And you do things for the world that sometimes is not so popular, but I just want to let you know that I appreciate what you do. I love coming here, and you're more the solution than the problem. So a little bit about what's going on in America. We got lots of problems, but we have more unity than you would think. Now I'll talk about the unity here in a minute. I'm going to say something good about President Biden. I had to come all the way over here to do it. I hope nobody in South Carolina is listening. But I will say some nice things about the Biden administration and my Democratic colleagues. First, I want to say, how many people were here for the morning session? Well, I thought it was the most one-sided view of a situation I've ever seen. Gives one-sided a bad name. So I'll respond. I've been watching television here in the hotel, and it's horrific what you see. Children being hurt and killed. Horrible, terrible. But the opening session, October the 7th, was like 5 seconds. My colleagues in the Senate were shown a 45-minute film made by Hamas for your viewing pleasure. I've never seen anything like it. It's the most despicable, horrible thing imaginable, to the point that the majority leader, Senator Schumer, a Democrat from New York, we disagree a lot, but I like Chuck, went back to his office and closed the door for 30 minutes. You'll be seeing more. You'll be hearing about the rape, the sexual violence, and how children had their heads cut off, and you'll be seeing more about that. Let me tell you where Congress is. Congress would like to see this war over sooner rather than later. Congress would like to lessen the number of civilian casualties to the extent possible. But Congress will stand with Israel until they do what they need to do. The last time a bunch of people tried to kill all the Jews 80 years ago, there was no Israel. So the one thing I can tell you, if it's your goal to kill all the Jews, you're going to have one hell of a fight on your hands. And the United States of America is going to stand with Israel without animosity toward the Palestinians. The Palestinians, long-suffering, would you agree? Are you ready actually to do something about the Palestinian problem when this is over? Good. The first thing we need to do is find a new PA. I wouldn't give 15 cents to this crowd. So when this is over, I hope we can find new people to offer new governance that's less corrupt, to give the Palestinian people something to live for. When this is over, I assure you, Hamas will not be able to destroy Israel ever again. They have fire brigades. When this is over, they won't. And when this is over, they'll no longer be able to oppress the Palestinian people. You know, if you don't do what Hamas says, they throw you off the roof. There actually is history that we can read and videos we can look at. Hamas could give a damn about the Palestinian people. This is not about liberation. It's about a group of people who are nuts. For some reason, want to kill all the Jews and have everybody in the world to bend to their will in terms of worshiping God. Oh, they'll be destroyed. I don't know how long it will take, but the ultimate destruction of Hamas will come from the Palestinian people. Hadn't heard much about Iran. From my point of view, the great Satan of the world is the Iranian regime led by the Ayatollah, who's a religious Nazi, who's the root of most of the problems in this region. So one day there'll be a reckoning for him, and that will be delivered by the Iranian people. A 16-year-old girl beaten to death because she didn't wear the scarf right. And I'm at home, I get asked about, they're all the same, people in the Islamic faith. No, they're not. I'm in an Islamic country. I feel really safe. I feel really welcome. What Hamas is offering is not Islam. I know that. And I think most people in Congress get that. So when this war comes to a military end, we'll have a great opportunity to change the course of history for the Palestinian people and give Israel real security and leave Iran in the dustbin of history. We're going to have to work quickly. We're going to have to work together. Republicans and Democrats, Jews and Christians and Muslims, vegetarians and libertarians. I look forward to being part of bringing an end to this insanity and really having a fresh start, not only for the Palestinian people, but a Mideast that is a place where I can go and feel safe and enjoy myself, a Mideast like Qatar.
Thank you, Senator Graham. So you're representing, thank you. You're representing the U.S. Congress and probably...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best choice they could have made, but I'm the only one that would come.
So you're representing the U.S. Congress, and one of the biggest fights or discussions, negotiations in the Congress this weekend is the supplemental. And the supplemental would fund Ukraine, would fund Israel, and would also fund the U.S. southern border. From media reports, that negotiation appears to be in peril, and perhaps we may not get it before the end of the year. What is the status on the supplemental, especially for Ukraine?
Well, let's talk about Ukraine. I missed Mr. Lavrov's speech. And I would go talk to him in Russia if I could, but they have an arrest warrant for me in Russia. So I don't know how to say Lavrov is full of crap and airy, but if I did, I would. So what's happening is that the Ukrainian people have rejected the invitation by the Russians to be part of Russia. They'll fight to the last person, and help is on the way. The problem, Morgan, is that I want to help robustly Ukraine. I want to help our friends in Israel, and we will. I want to help Taiwan stand up to China, but we have to secure our own southern border. We're being invaded at a level I've never seen. Israel would get 90 votes in the Senate and an overwhelming vote in the House if it was a standalone proposition for aid, and it may come to that. But Ukraine is divided. People in my party are confused about what we should do with Ukraine. I am not. We should help Ukraine. If Putin gets away with this, he won't stop, and all of Europe is going to be on fire. I get it. But I got to tell my Democratic colleagues, if you don't work with us in a real way to secure the border, I can't help you. I can't go back to South Carolina, Morgan, and say I helped Ukraine and left my own border unsecured. I'm optimistic, but we got a long way to go. The phone call last night with the negotiators, I'm sad to report we're far away, but here's what encourages me. President Biden said a couple of days ago that he's willing to compromise more, and I hope he will get involved in the negotiations. But I'm hoping by early next year we pass the supplemental that would have military aid and assistance for Israel. It would help Ukraine robustly to get through our election next year, and we have secured our own border. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but we have a long way to go.
The Biden administration has taken some criticism, both here at the forum and around the world today, for the veto of the UN Security Resolution just a few days ago that would have called for another ceasefire without a release of any more hostages. Do you support President Biden's position at the UN?
President Biden, you did the right thing. President Biden, you have been good on Ukraine. President Biden, you have risen to the occasion after October the 7th. I have a world of difference with President Biden on many things. But when he vetoed the ceasefire resolution, he did the right thing, and let me tell you why. Every ceasefire Hamas has ever entered, they've broken. And we're not going to do a ceasefire until hostages begin to be released like promised, and we give the Israeli military the time and space they need to make sure that Hamas ceases to be a threat to Israel and the Palestinian people. So as a Republican, I am standing behind President Biden's decision to veto that resolution and the one that comes next. And to my good friend at the UN, who I really honestly like, before this war you had a problem in America. After this war you got a huge problem in America. The UN, to me, has been very one-sided, and I will reserve further criticism privately when I meet the Secretary General in the future.
One of the things that you've been very involved with is the ongoing talks between Saudi, well, I guess they're not ongoing anymore, but you were very involved with the talks earlier this year that were trying to lead the Biden administration to normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And it looked like for a moment that there was a real opportunity for peace between Mecca and Jerusalem. Is there still an opportunity, or is that normalization process now dead?
God willing, there's still an opportunity. I'm going to ask a question of the audience. How many of you think that this attack on October the 7th was inspired, at least in part, by the desire of Iran to make sure Saudi Arabia never reconcile with Israel? Yeah, me too. Without Iran, there is no Hamas. You think it's an accident this happened on October the 7th? How many of you think the Abraham Accords was a sea change in the Mideast? I do. So we know Israel can make peace with their Arab neighbors. So what I think happened, Morgan, this attack, at least in part, was designed to make sure that the big prize, Saudi Arabia, would never be able to recognize Israel and vice versa. The biggest fear of the Ayatollah is that the Arab world, in conjunction with Israel, marches toward the light away from the darkness. They hate that idea that everybody in this room can find a way to work with Israel and live with Israel where everybody makes money and can live in peace. Because let me tell you, their agenda is different than yours. So I believe we cannot let Iran win. And for Iran to lose would be the following. We not give up on the efforts to reconcile Saudi Arabia with Israel. That we not give up on a new way of doing business with the Palestinians after this war is over. I'm going to Israel soon, and here's what I'm going to tell my Israeli friends. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, none of these Arab countries can help you unless you make a commitment for a two-state solution. They just can't do it. Now, whether you can do it, I'll leave that up to you. Whether it's a good idea for Israel, I'll leave that up to you. But I do know this, to my Arab friends, to the GCC friends, I know you cannot leave the Palestinians hanging. To my friends in Israel, the best thing you can do to beat Iran is to give the Palestinians a life where they're not dependent upon terrorist organizations, that they can live and work and be prosperous. Morgan, here's the question that nobody's talking about. After 18 years of Hamas control, how long will that day be? When you teach math in schools in Gaza, if you had 10 Jews, you killed 6, how many would you have left? It's a radicalized population from birth. And we're going to have to deal with that collectively. But as Germany and Japan rose from the ashes, so can the Palestinians. It's going to take money. It's going to take hand-holding and some kicks in the butt. But I do believe, Morgan, that when the military operations in Israel come to an end, at least in an intensive way, that we should engage as if the world depended on its own security to make this deal happen. I am a Republican. I pledge in front of the world to help President Biden secure the votes in the United States Senate to make it possible for Saudi Arabia to have a defense agreement with us, which would then make it possible for Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel. Before the world, I pledge my support to help reconstruct a new Palestine. None of this is possible until you have a less corrupt, younger Palestinian Authority replacing the one we have, and Hamas can no longer wreak havoc on Israel or their own people. This is for President Biden to do. I think a Republican president would have a hard time getting 67 votes. Morgan, I will do what I can to deliver a large number of Republican senators for the propositions I've just laid out. Working with President Biden to bring about the ultimate solution to the Iranian problem. Peace between the Arabs and the Jews.
You and the late Senator McCain, were very outspoken for many years on Syria, and that gets less discussion and doesn't get talked about as much now. What's the status of the U.S. Congress's policy towards the people of Syria and supporting them? What do you think Qatar and the Middle East should be doing?
Well, number one, Assad is not the solution, he's the problem. Who is he backed by? Mostly Iran. Hezbollah has 100,000 rockets pointed at Israel. So again, it's a situation where Syria has been dismembered, broken into parts because of the Iranian efforts to dominate the region. Same for Yemen. So what I hope is that we can focus on Saudi-Israeli reconciliation with a new, bright future for the Palestinians, and over time that would marginalize the effort by Iran to keep the region in constant chaos. If the Iranians are listening, you keep attacking our troops through your Shiite militia proxies in Iraq and Syria, I will do everything to push the Biden administration to hit you. The Houthis keep firing at ships in the Red Sea, a virtual declaration on the world. I will do everything I can to have the Biden administration hit you. The Iranians need to pay a price for what they've done to the people in this region.
You know, a really smart diplomat told me half of the battle is showing up. And you obviously have shown up here. You're in Qatar many times. You're in the Middle East probably more than any senator. One of the things that President Trump and the beginning years of his administration started, and President Biden has continued, is really the focus on, we've called it a bunch of different things, but let's just say it's geopolitical competition between the United States, Russia, and China. How do we in the United States retain our influence here in the Middle East, and what else should we be doing to work closely with Qatar and all the countries represented here?
First thing we need to do is be a better partner, a reliable partner. How many of you were unnerved by what happened in Afghanistan? I was. So what I would tell the people in the region, what Russia, Iran, and China offer, there's a better way. Commerce is done here in Doha at an Olympic level. You can travel freely and safely. You can do business here, and if something goes wrong with your business, you can go to court and get a fair shake. What do you offer business? The rule of law, a secure environment. Everything you want, they hate. So what I hope will happen is that the American people will choose a new leader in 24, and I hope it's Trump. But between now and then, we will act together, Morgan, as Republicans and Democrats to make sure the world doesn't blow up before November 2024. We actually have an opportunity to put Russia on their back foot by funding Ukraine to fight next year. They've taken back half of the territory conquered by the Russians. The average Russian conscript does not want to die in Ukraine. Putin is facing international criminal charges for stealing children. 24 is going to be a test of the world. And what kind of world you want? I want a world where Hamas doesn't exist the way it does today. I want a world where a Palestinian mother and father can see a better future for their child. I want a world where Putin gets his ass kicked in Ukraine. I want a world where the Arab-Israeli conflict ends, virtually ends, by Saudi Arabia recognizing Israel, doing a deal with the United States no later than May of next year. Everything I have said is possible. And if we fail on these fronts, God help us all. If Putin gets away with it, there goes Taiwan. If after all the barbaric behavior in Russia, he doesn't pay a price, everything we've talked about since World War II is all talk. If after what happened on October the 7th, Hamas is still standing, God help us all. I'm going to leave here optimistic. I had a meeting with the Emir. I think people in this region, Morgan, are ready to rise to the occasion. That there will be a moment, sooner rather than later, when military operations are over, and it will be a test of us. You have streets on fire right now. I can only imagine what the average person must think watching television. I've been watching it, and it's awful. In America, our streets are on fire. Republicans and Democrats, pretty heated right now. But I do believe that with the right type of leadership, a Republican senator helping a Democratic president in the Arab-Israeli conflict, leaders in the Arab world standing up to the street in a reasonable way, 24 could be one of the most consequential years in the history of the world. But I'll say this, one way or the other, 2024 is going to shape the world for decades to come. Why did I come here? I think this is exactly where I need to be at the right time for me to be here, to urge you, in spite of all our faults back home, America is a good place, full of good people, just like here. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Graham.